So ever since the election, I've sat back and listened to a whole lot of people give their takes on what went wrong, how Kamala Harris could have lost, how Donald Trump could have regained power. I agree with some of the stuff they say. I disagree with a whole lot of it, and I don't think that anyone fully has the answers. I think we're still learning as we go, to be honest with you. But when I sit back and think about it, I really do believe that one of the main things that helped get Donald Trump over that finish line was the culture wars. Now, they can sit all day and talk about how it was about the price of eggs or the grocery bill, but MAGA's entire identity has always been that they're the victims in the story, that they're being unfairly persecuted, and so they have to go out there and create these culture wars to give them some sort of purpose in their life and give them some sort of identity. They've not only latched on to Donald Trump, they've latched on to this fight that he's fighting, and they get in on it because they want to feel like they're one-upping someone. They're owning the libs, or they're smarter than someone else. And I spent most of 2023 and 2024 writing satirical songs about the culture wars, and I did so because satire is the use of humor, irony, and exaggeration to expose the stupidity of someone's beliefs. And yes, I have memorized that definition because I want people to know exactly why I wrote those songs. I did so to expose the stupidity of the beliefs. So when someone like Kid Rock went out and shot up a bunch of Bud Light because he was mad about a transgender being on the can, I wrote a song and mocked that because it was stupid and deserved to be ridiculed for the stupidity that it truly was. Meanwhile, there was people in my part of the world that got more mad at me for writing that song than they did at him. They were mad at me because I wrote a song about it and made fun of their hero and made fun of his ridiculous culture war. But I did so because that ridiculous culture war that they got mad about had no effect on their day-to-day lives whatsoever. Kid Rock getting mad at Bud Light and shooting up a bunch of cans did not do anything to people in Appalachia. It didn't hurt anyone. It didn't take away from anything. And a transgender being on a beer can did not take away from anyone because, by the way, that can was never sold in stores, so they never even had to walk past it. But that's what they got worked up over. Meanwhile, they sat and they watched their daughter's future be stripped away from her. They watched her rights be stripped completely away from her, and they were okay with that. Because again, they were fighting the culture wars that, oh, we're the ones that's going to save and protect the women. We're going to save them from the immigrants coming across the border. We're going to be their protectors whether they like it or not. We're going to be the hero in the story. Do you see where this is going? It's always going there. It always circles back to them trying to find a way to be the hero in the story. They'll go out, they'll burn their Carhartt, they'll boycott Starbucks and Target and other places they never shop to start with, and they'll do so to thump their chest and give themselves some sort of purpose in this world. Meanwhile, the things they're fighting about had absolutely nothing to do with their day-to-day lives, and they've been taught that words like woke and words like liberal are bad words. And anytime that one of us tries to raise awareness on any issue, we get called woke. And we get called that in a way that demonizes us and makes us out to be the bad guy for trying to point out the injustices in this world. What we're trying to point out is bigger than the culture wars. What we're trying to point out is that at the end of the day, what they don't want you to do, they want you to fight the culture wars. What they don't want you to do is fight the class wars. They don't want you to realize that you actually have more in common with the people you disagree with than you realize. You really both want the same things. You're just going about it in different ways. But when it comes right down to the moral of the story, we all want to be able to live our lives. We want to be able to raise our families. We all want to be able to work our jobs. We want to do so in our own fashion, follow our own beliefs, believe in what we want to believe in. We all want those things. And they had to find a way to get poor people to vote against their interest and to cheer them on. And they did so by creating culture wars that had no effect on them whatsoever, but that got them fired up and ready to vote. And like my good buddy Denver Riggleman said when he was on my podcast, he said a stupid vote counts just the same as a smart one. And if a bunch of people stays home and a bunch of stupid people shows up, it's still going to count. So they fought the culture wars. It didn't add any value to their lives other than making them feel warm and fuzzy inside and thinking they owned a lib. Meanwhile, they sit back and they're going to watch their grocery bill skyrocket. They're going to find a way to blame it on Biden and the Democrats. They'll sit back and watch their rights be stripped away, and as it happens, they won't realize what happened. They'll be looking around going, how did this happen to me? Wait, it wasn't supposed to happen to me. But it happened to you because they wanted to distract you with something that had no true meaning. You go back to any of those culture wars, they fought them to distract from what they were really trying to do. Meanwhile, people like us was talking about Project 2025. Trump came out and said, oh, I have nothing to do with that. They all believed him. Then he's sitting back picking people from Project 2025, and no one in Project 2025 has had any problem with any of his picks. They love everything that he's done so far. And they've even laughed and joked and said, now we can go ahead and say it. Now we can go ahead and say that we're all about Project 2025. As we begin to get deeper in the weeds with it, they're going to look around and go, wait a minute, what happened to me? Wait a minute, how did this happen to me? Well, it happened to you because you looked over at a disabled Santa in a wheelchair at Target and got more upset over that than you did your daughter's rights being stripped away from her. And you looked over and decided to burn your Carhartt or shoot up your Bud Light because you valued that more than you did democracy. I know we will be, for years to come, we'll be looking back on this election going, what went wrong? How the hell did that happen? Because in no reasonable world should it have ever happened. People should have looked at it for what it truly was. Kamala Harris did not run on anything woke. She never even talked about it. She ran on the economy. She ran on the border. She ran on jobs. She ran on fixing this country. And Donald Trump ran the culture wars, and it worked for him. He got it over the finish line. I said all along, and I will still say, that he ran a very stupid campaign. But we live in a very stupid country now. And it worked. It was stupid by all manner of reason. If you look back at any election in history, no one ever ran one that absurd. It was absolutely so absurd and so over the top ridiculous that it worked for him. And now that they've got it, it's kind of like if you're walking through an antique shop and you knock something over, when you break it, you buy it. That's kind of where they're at. They broke it with all these ridiculous culture wars, and now they're going to have to pay the price. It's going to suck to sit back and watch. But I just wonder if there will ever come a moment where they'll stop and go, you know, I really had no business getting that upset about something I heard Joe Rogan say on his podcast, or I shouldn't have got that upset over something that I read without fully looking into it to realize that, no, there really wasn't, cat litter boxes out there. I wonder if there will ever come that moment when they go, you know what, I don't really give a damn which beer I drank. I shouldn't have burned my Carhartt. If it'll ever register in their brain. Or if they're just so enamored with being the hero in the story, they'll continue to fight that battle. I don't claim to have all the answers. I really don't. And I think anyone that says they do needs to examine themselves. I don't think any of us fully has the answers, but that's just one of my takes on where I think things went sideways. People valued their culture wars more so than they did their daughter's rights. And it's truly sad. But I thank you guys so much for sticking with me. So many of you have came on board recently. We've had just, people subscribing every day. We've crossed over 470,000. We're well on our way to 500,000. And I'm truly grateful for all of you each and every day for tuning in and listening to what I have to say. I had a funny email from a listener who was like, Brando, you seem to be flying off the seat of your pants these days. Yeah, I am. And the truth is we all are. And we're going to be for a long time. But we're just going to have to learn how to roll with the changes, and we're going to have to learn how to figure these things out as we go. And we may not always get it right. I'll go ahead and say that up front. We may not always get it right, but our heart's in the right place, and we're always going to intend to. And I'm going to sit back, and I'm going to worry about people in my part of the world. And when some rapper from Detroit that wants to be a country boy and wave a rebel flag decides to get mad over something next and wants to flex, I'm not going to be doing anything other than writing a song about how stupid he is.